Welcome, writers, game masters, and creatives to the World Builders Tavern. Today we are talking about the show The Three Body Problem. Specifically, we're going to be focusing on episodes 1 to 4 of the show. We are actually going to do a two-parter for this one because we found that there is so much to talk about. So for this episode, we will be focusing on 1 to 4. Be warned for spoilers for the whole run, however. We make no promises that we won't touch a little on the back half of the season, but we're going to be focusing on the first half. So, with that, grab an ale or mocktail and pull up a chair. I'm Emma, your friendly barkeep, along with Allison.
Hello.
And Christiana.
Hi.
And we are so happy to have you here. Cheers!
Cheers!
So, as anybody who has watched the show can guess, it is very difficult to summarize. We spent a little while sort of crafting our summary at top because there's truly so much going on. But here is the very general list of overviews of this Netflix show, which is essentially that science has stopped working on Earth. Impossible results are showing up on tests and scans, and scientists are being threatened into stopping their research. The cause? An alien race called the Trisolarans, or Santi Ren, is headed to Earth to colonize it. Through intergalactic communication, including mysterious video games, these travelers attempt to intimidate human scientists into slowing down our rapid technological advancement, making Earth easier to conquer. Dun, dun, dun. Who doesn't love a good alien invasion story?
Right.
Yes.
So yeah, there is a lot to jump in. So none of us had seen this before because this actually just came out on Netflix fairly recently, and I don't believe any of us had read the book. Is that correct? Oh no, Allie, you'd read the book. Is that right?
No, I have not read the book. I did. I was curious, so I looked up some summaries to see how the book was different.
I did too, actually. After I watched the show, I was like, what happened in the book?
And then I read some summaries of the book, and I'm like, this is not a book for me. I can see why some people would like this, but it's very science heavy, as you might guess from how the show works. But I enjoyed the show, so
yeah. The book has actually been on my TBR for a while. I had asked for recommendations from friends, and one of my friends recommended it, so I've been planning on reading it, and now I'm even more excited to read it, because I did also really enjoy the show. I think we all liked the show, right?
I liked it. The first episode did give me a little panic attack, a full existential crisis. Because if I think too hard about how science works, it freaks me out a little bit. I'm like, I don't know. And the whole first episode is like, isn't science crazy? Isn't it crazy how small we are? And I'm like, we are small and science is crazy. It almost set me off, but it's really good. I loved it.
Yeah, the first episode really focuses on sort of the mystery of it all. Like the first episode gives you a lot of that, science isn't working. All the scientists are finding results that they're not supposed to and don't understand what's happening, and they're getting these threatening countdowns are appearing that they kind of are having these visual hallucinations, essentially, like a countdown clock and it's like you have to stop your research, or when you get to the end of this clock you'll die, which is of course very terrifying.
They do such a good job of tension and asking questions that you're like, what is happening? It gave me that part of the show and nothing else. Gave me a bit of Lost vibes, because
I can see it. Yeah.
Asks really interesting questions, but then the answers sometimes aren't that great. I thought the answers were just as interesting in this show.
Did the first episode for you two, did you feel intrigued? We're at the end of the episode, were you thinking, I really want to know the answers to these questions that they set up?
This is like a master class in building tension. So story writers, you should watch this show for learning how to do that. And so it asks really interesting world building questions. And just in the first episode, we have a ton. So why has science gone haywire? And I think it's not just science, but the laws of nature just aren't making sense. But the show focuses on scientists. So we get science experiments, results aren't making sense anymore. Augie is seeing this countdown, and we're like, what's going on there? What's happening? Vera Yi kills herself.
Who is a scientist.
And we're like, why? And then we have the detective, or he's not a detective. What is he? Whatever he is.
A private
he's trying to figure out why multiple scientists have died, many by suicide. And what the heck is this video game?
Mm-hmm.
Also,
yes, mysterious headsets, like VR headsets, are
Yeah.
like appearing
With
on
impossible
people's doors.
technology
Yeah,
that we
like-
don't have yet.
Yeah.
also, it's in the first episode we see the stars flash, right? That's in the
Yes,
first
they
one.
like flicker on and off, which is
I think
That
that's the
too.
end of
Yes,
the
yeah,
Yeah,
the
the
end of the
very
first
end of the
episode.
episode. That for
Yeah.
me, I was like another reason where I was like, this is terrifying. I don't know what I would do in that situation, so I need to watch. I need to find out because like I wouldn't like
Yeah.
what if you were out camping and you saw the stars flicker?
I would
Like,
assume it's a me
who
thing.
would you-
Like I would just be
who would-
like,
yeah,
oh,
you know what
I
I mean?
missaw that, or like.
But if someone
whatever,
said
right?
the universe will wink at you and then you look up at the stars and the stars just shut off for a moment, who do you call?
And it's
Like,
flickering
what do you
in
do
time with the
with the countdown?
Yeah.
with the
No.
the count.
Yeah.
No, it's the she was given some like cereal box decoder or something.
Oh yeah.
And yes, it is with the countdown, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, and interestingly, so I always love this because seeing different people's perspective. If it weren't for the podcast, I don't think I would have finished watching after the first episode because I found
Oh,
the first
really?
episode to be way too many questions and not enough answers. Where I was just like, "This is
That's fair.
boring. Nothing is happening." Like, and even in retrospect, because I know they had a lot to set up. Like, this is a show with a lot going on. I feel like they could have maybe moved to things a little bit quicker. I get that you want the tension in the first episode to like really make the answers impactful, but personally, and then it just, I don't know, I found the kind of just like it was a little bit, I thought, disjointed because you had all the stuff with science and then also randomly this video game, and they didn't seem to connect at all in the first episode. So I was kind of like, why are there two different plots going on? Are they connected? I'm sure they are. So yeah, which is very interesting because I didn't think that the first episode worked for me, but it's very interesting to see like that it worked so well.
I will
both of
say
y'all.
I did try to watch it before we decided to do it for the podcast, and I got about 20 minutes into the first episode, and I was like, okay, this is cool and I want to watch this. This is something I need to like sit down and pay close attention to. And I just like threw it on while I was like doing other stuff. And I was like,
yeah, this is not a background.
not
show.
a background kind of show at all. And even then I like, after like 10 minutes of it, I was like, oh, I really have to pay attention. And then I was trying to pay attention and I was like, I already missed so much information in the first 10 minutes. We'll try again later when I'm in the mood to like really pay attention to something.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you could have brought those questions in a little bit slower to make it work more for Emma. And what I really like is when you have a question, it's really intriguing, you get an answer for the question, and then that brings in another question.
Yes. Yeah.
So you could have done that maybe like, I don't know, brought in the headsets later. It worked for me, but it was a lot. It was a lot of
I almost
questions all at once.
Wished as I was watching it, and they're like, because it ends with the stars flickering. I was like, they look up to the night sky, and I was like, next episode, and then the stars flickered, and I was like, oh, never mind. Like I really thought they were gonna like end it on a super cliffhanger. That might have been fun, but.
I liked the ending because it was just tension ratcheting up, like just a lot of fear.
It's like none of this is fake. This is like real.
Yeah. So also, it works as a cliffhanger still.
Yeah.
Because you're like, what is happening? All these questions really work as a cliffhanger.
I will say my tiny pet peeve with the show, and especially after reading the summary of the book, is that, what is it, the Oxford 5? Is that what they're all from Oxford? I'm like, I struggle with that sometimes in storytelling because I'm like, yeah, you're only going to tell incredible stories, right? But the fact that like everyone involved all went to school together and are like besties, I was like,
so the
what's
Oxford 5, for anybody who hasn't seen the show, is like the group of scientists that are all, or like it's the group of people, most of whom are scientists, who are kind of the protagonists of the story. Like they're the ones who are like all doing the cutting edge research and super integral to the plot. Yes, which is what Christiana
They actually changed that in the book. The 5 scientists didn't know each other.
Yeah, that's it, which that
is
seems more
realistic. But I kind of like that I see why they did it.
I loved it in the end. I'm like, this is great for storytelling. But at the very beginning, I was like, Like,
see, and
what's the
it's funny because
likelihood of this?
I actually thought that was really realistic because I feel like that's how it goes, right? Like all of the wealthy, educated people know each other because they all meet each other in these like Ivy League schools and the meet and greets and the networking. So
Yeah,
like
that's
for
true.
me, it
That's
makes
fair.
more
Yeah.
sense that the most influential people would
I don't
already know
know,
each other
that
because they move in the same circles. Like
the 5 most important scientists in the world already know each, like, in relation to this alien
Yeah.
invasion. It's a little bit coincidental.
I don't know. I feel like if you're at the top of your field in science, you probably know the other.
Maybe.
Like that's a incredibly small circle, right? Like the
But
top
also-
scientists in the
The
world
world
is
is
like
very
so small.
big.
The world
I don't
is very
know.
big and science is very big.
There are more universities than Oxford.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And even like, I can't speak to like hard science, but even doing like communications research, like I don't know anyone else who's working on research that involves TikTok. It's probably because it's a new thing, but also that's like it narrows down into your research is actually like really slim, really small. It's one specific research question and one kind of very niche field. So that for me, I'm like, oh, and then you just happen to have 5 people who research exactly what you need and they're all best friends. So I was like, okay.
But this decision worked for the story Netflix wanted
It did.
to tell.
I agree entirely. I don't have like,
because I just want to go into why, in
Yeah.
case listeners are like, why did they make that decision? Because the Netflix show is very much interested in the relationships between the scientists and their backstory and how they got to know each other. And like one of them is in love with one of the other who does. I'm not sure if she knows or is pretending not to know or just is oblivious. I think she's oblivious until he like gives her a star. That comes in later.
I was gonna say that's
Sorry.
a laugh tap, Allie.
Sorry, we're not supposed to talk about future episodes. Anyway, so it really works for this story because the original novels very much were, from what I've read, were not concerned with character as much and more just using character as a vessel to explore this science. And Netflix, I think rightly so, because I love character stories, wanted to
But
explore
it
the
also
characters.
adds stakes to the story.
Yes.
Right? It's not just a bunch of scientists trying to solve a problem.
Yeah.
You get to see what humanity is and how humanity relates and how humans relate to one another. And that's such a precious thing that the Santi don't understand. So that's what's at stake, right? Like I think that was actually really smart. For sure.
And it's cool to see the way that the world building changes depending on the story you want to tell with the same story. Like the book was interested in telling a certain type of story, and so the world is set up in a certain way, and then the show wanted to tell a different sort of story.
Yeah.
So the world is set up in a different way. So there's like a great world building thing right there, is like think about what kind of story you want to tell and you can make your world shaped to tell that story better, which is really interesting.
And interestingly, in the book, apparently in book 1, it focuses just on one character going through this video game. So I really liked that they had both Jin and Jack playing the game together and trying to like work through it together. And then, of course, spoiler, Jack is murdered in season 3, which I was so sad about because I loved him so much. He was like my favorite. And then they killed him. So like
funny.
I feel like Allie always gets attached to the characters that die. Like it's a good predictor.
Really
if Allie loves the character, they're gonna get killed.
You have a sixth sense. We know if Allie likes the character will die at some point.
Boo! Anyway, that really ratcheted up the tension when you get attached to this character and then they're dead. You're like, oh, this is real. Things are happening.
Not just dead, but killed in a kind of horrifying way. Like there were so many cameras in the house. Okay, so for people who maybe haven't watched, essentially they solve the video game. They get to the end problem. It's revealed to them that Santi are coming to Earth. Like they find out the secret.
Yeah.
And then Jack rejects it. He's like, no, this is weird. Let me leave. He leaves. And then someone from the cult who's like trying to help the aliens comes into his house but can't be detected by cameras. The Clarence, the detective, is watching the house. They can't see anyone enter or do anything, and then he's murdered in a fairly violent way. by this like almost invisible force to everyone but him, which
Mhm.
Which
is
is another
horrifying.
really great question, like world building
Yeah.
question, like why can't the cameras see these people? Why is you still
Yeah.
don't understand why reality is being warped. You don't
Mhm.
Yeah.
know how
At
the
this
aliens are
point,
doing this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So great. Oh,
Yeah.
such good
That
tension.
I know that scene actually freaked me out a little bit. Like as a big horror fan, I was like, "Ooh, I love I don't love slashers because I'm like, it's just a dude with a knife." Unfortunately, as a like femme presenting person, that's like a real threat all the time. Like
That's
it's
not
not like, you
entertaining.
know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's not fiction. This I was like, "Oh my God, what would you even do?" Like in that situation, you could see someone, but like it's not caught on camera. If I was like a ghost haunting my own house after the fact, I'd be so mad. I'd be
Mhm.
like, "What do you mean my 40 billion cameras didn't pick it up?" Like,
I feel like that's a great way if you're trying to write horror or create a horror world. I think a really interesting thing to think about is what makes people feel safe and what would happen
mhm.
if you took that away. Like cameras
Yeah,
make people feel safe. Well, what happens if the cameras aren't working for this person? Or like, so
yeah,
that's an interesting thing is like
yeah,
just a small world building thing you can tweak to be like, oh, this is no longer safe. How horrifying.
yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not even that the cameras aren't working. It's not like, "Oh, they cut
Mm-hmm.
the wires, they disabled them." The cameras are working. They're recording. They're just not seeing anything.
Yeah.
The base function of a camera's existence is not serving you in this moment. Ugh, like that's
Yeah.
creepy. Woo.
Awful.
Yeah, when everything, especially for scientists who are deep into, the molecules of the world or the
Yeah.
atoms, to have that suddenly stop working, it's shivers, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. That too,
Yeah.
Yeah.
with the signs going wrong. That
Mm-hmm.
also, I think that's what set me on a spiral in the beginning. I'm like, what if that actually happened?
Yeah.
It's almost like a excuse me, it's almost like a portal fantasy, which is the type of fantasy
Mm,
where you like leave our world and go to another world. So like for example,
Mm-hmm.
like Narnia, you're crossing from the real world into the magical world. It's almost like that, but it's kind of like a portal sci-fi in that we've kind of left, and even the people within the show are leaving the world as they know it and they're going to this completely other world, but it's the same world, right? Like
In
they're
the
not
yeah.
moving, the
well,
world is moving,
The
which
new
is
world
really
came to
interesting.
you
Yeah.
instead of you going to the new world.
although in the
Yeah.
video game they go to the
Yes.
Santis
Yeah.
Yeah.
world,
Yeah. So
so
let's talk about that. There's actually kind of like three different worlds happening because there's the present timeline. There's also a past timeline happening that we're
mm-hmm.
seeing flashbacks to at the same time. And then there's the world of the video games. There's actually like three worlds
Yeah.
combined in the
Mm-hmm.
show. How effective do you think that was? Did you think it worked well? What worked well about it? Let's chat about the multiple worlds going on here.
I think the video game did a really good job of, again, adding tension, which is the theme of this episode. That it's just makes you ask so many questions because it's so weird. You have no idea what's going on. I mean, you know that there are aliens if you watch this show. Like I assume it's in the summary or like if you know anything about the three body problem, but it's still very confusing because like what do they have to do with this video game? Why are they having scientists go through this? What's it? And it was very creepy as well.
Yeah.
Do you want to give
I
a little summary of the video game for anybody who hasn't
so
watched the show?
when Jin first enters it, she's met by this, I think it's just an older man, and it's like ancient China type aesthetics. She's met by an old man and a little girl who tell her, I can't, I'm doing a terrible job because I can't remember exactly what they tell her, that she has to save the world or something,
I think,
The
and
yeah,
little girl
that's the
wants to
gist
be
of it.
saved
wants to be
too.
saved.
Yeah.
And so she's like brought in um to the emperor or whoever into this sort of castle structure where she has to try and solve why the world is either I think it's engulfed in flame or sometimes they're frozen.
Yeah, there's different levels. Like they start off where
Yeah.
everybody's like dried out, and they get told that they're either going to be in a stable era or an unstable era, and in an unstable era, everyone
But
dies.
the problem is they can't tell when an unstable era is going to happen or when a stable era is. Okay, and the people drying out is so creepy.
Very
so gross.
creepy, very
Yeah, I
creepy.
was like,
It's
yuck.
like a bunch of desiccated husks that like
That-
are rolled up,
But they're
into
like
little
literally
balls.
like rolled
Yeah,
up like
rolled
sleeping
up.
like
bags.
sleeping bags.
And then if you
Gross.
put them in water, they somehow magically come back to life.
Yeah.
So so totally scientific.
Yeah.
But
a little bit of body horror.
Yeah,
I would say
yeah.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very creepy. And so Jin is, of course, fascinated by this question of why is this world dying? What is going on with these stable and unstable eras? And so really works to figure out what the science is, what's
Mhm.
going on. And eventually she figures out, which is the novel's title, The Three-Body Problem, that this world is orbiting two suns.
Three
Or
suns.
or
Three
three
suns.
suns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, three body problem. And so it's getting pulled into orbits, and you just can't possibly predict what orbit it's going to be into and when these stable eras are, which is of course why the Santee left their planet and are coming to Earth.
Yes, it
Yes.
turns out this is not a hypothetical. This is actually what's happening for the aliens. So then it
Yeah.
finally like connects, and you're like, oh, this is how these things intersect.
So it's not clear why this video game exists. Like, why do they want to communicate this
That's
until later?
One thing
Yes.
I was confused about was with the cults. So we find out, I'm pretty sure that's earlier in the episodes. Let me double check before I go on being like, the cult, and spoiling things for folks. Yes. Okay. So there's like kind of this cult that wants to invite the aliens to Earth.
They think they're going to fix
And
everything. Yeah.
They're the ones who are distributing the video game, as far as I
Yeah.
understand.
Yes,
that
but
part was
the
a
game
little
is made by
unclear.
the aliens. It's like created by the aliens, and then the cult members are like leaving it at the doors of the people that they select.
Yeah, so that's the one thing in the show where I was kind of like, what is going on here? Like, what? Why?
Yeah,
Why
the answer to that question, I'm not sure, is as interesting as I wanted it to be.
No,
because
for me
I think
too.
the
I was
answer
like,
is
why?
they're just trying to find the smartest scientists and shut them down or something.
Yeah,
Either kill them or bring them into the fold.
I also thought it
Which,
was
yeah.
maybe like a just in case they can actually solve it. Like it is an unsolvable problem, but I
Yeah.
don't know. I kind of
Oh.
also got the feeling of like maybe it's to see if they can fix
It's
our
either
problem.
Maybe
they fix it or we recruit them.
yeah.
And if
Or we
they
kill them.
reject
And
it,
either way,
kill
we
them,
win.
kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yes.
So, yeah, which is an interesting. I'm not sure. Like, I really like the show. That part of it maybe feels a little silly to me. Like, if I actually think about it, I'm kind of like, well, why a video game? Why is
Yeah,
it?
it feels like there would be
this?
better ways.
Yeah.
To do that.
Yes.
But maybe, I don't know, that's just something about their society. Maybe they're all about virtual reality.
Yeah, we don't get to know a lot
communicate.
about the aliens. Like, we never really see one. We only
Ooh,
hear their voices.
I did want to talk about that.
Ooh.
Because I love a story where we never get to see the villain. It's very Lord of the Rings
agree.
and Sauron,
Yeah.
you know, like, and it's so interesting to me how a writer can make them so scary when you never actually see them. Like Sauron is so scary.
Yeah.
From a horror perspective, I love a creature feature. Hate it when I
Uh-huh.
see the creature.
It's
Like-
always scarier in your head. It's always like
scarier
that
in your head.
dread is
Always. Like the
scarier,
Blair
yeah.
Witch Project. Such a scary movie because you don't ever actually see what's going on, and your brain can make up all the scariest things possible, and you're like, like really freaked out kind of thing. So
yeah, so the fact
I
that
also
you
like it,
never see these aliens, you see
Or at least not yet. Who knows what's happening in season
not
2.
yet. Not
but yeah,
we're
season
talking
1.
about season 1.
Yeah.
You see representations of them because they kind of come in a human form and in the video game are talking to you, but you never see them. And yet they're so scary just because of what they're doing to Earth and how much control they have over.
I also want to
millions of
talk
miles
about
away.
the original scientists, like Ye Wen-jie. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, she's who we see in the past flashbacks.
Yes, she's who we see in the past flashbacks. Her dad was a scientist. He was murdered. she gets sent to a work camp basically, and then eventually gets put on this like research project with a big like dish and radio signals. She figures out she could use the sun to like amplify radio signals, and she sends out a message. And a pacifist, I would describe it, from the alien group says, don't contact this again, don't respond, or we'll come, like we'll invade.
Yeah.
And she decides, because she's so disillusioned after her father's death, and I think before that she confronts her father's murderer and she has like no remorse about it or anything. She decides, screw it, people can't take care of themselves, and sends the message. The message that was on the screen, I can't remember it word for word, but like it pimpled my goose. I was like, I saw it and it was like, don't respond. I was like, like that's the scariest thing in the world. That's so scary. That's way scarier than being like, we're going to come invade you. That would be like, oh, scary, certainly scary. But the whole, if you respond again, we'll
You're
have your
dead.
location,
Yeah.
you're dead.
Mm-hmm.
And she decides to respond. I was like, oh my God, I was wreathing watching that scene. I was like, no, don't.
That choice says so much about her character and what she's been through.
Mm-hmm.
Just that one scene and choice. Like, who would invite a race of aliens? You have to be so angry
that you've
at
been
the world.
told are going to invade.
Yeah.
It's not even like a, oh, hey, what's up message. It was like a don't respond, otherwise everything's gonna go badly for you. And she was like, can't get any worse.
Yeah.
And you can totally understand why she made that choice, because
absolutely.
she has just been crushed by humanity. And they killed her dad, and they put her into these camps, and
and it wasn't even one person. Like her father's death wasn't just like an Uncle Ben mugging or anything. It was like the system, like the government didn't want science to happen. It was a systemic killing. The system then put her in this camp. So it's like all of humanity and the system that we've built. She's like, there's no solving it. This is what we've created. We're clearly not going to fix it. We need an outside person to come in and fix us. Yeah, why she thought these aliens were the ones to do it is a bit
I mean, I think it's just
irrational, but like understandable after what she's been through.
We are the worst. They can't be worse.
They couldn't possibly be worse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So even if they destroy us, that's what we deserve, kind of thing.
Yeah. And then in the present day timeline, she is the mother of that first scientist who killed herself. So that's how like then those two timelines intertwine. So you find that out partway through as well. That like oh, that's how these things are intersecting as well.
Yeah, and I assume her daughter killed herself because she found out what her mom had done.
Was it? I thought it was. I understood that it was just that she also got a countdown, and it just reached the end of her countdown.
Oh, did she?
That's what I thought. I could be wrong, but
I interpreted it as she found some sort of communication.
Oh, maybe
between her mom and the Santi. And
I thought she figured out what her mom did and was just like, I can't. But I don't know. Maybe the answer was left to interpretation, and that's why we.
I just looked it up. So apparently it is because she found it out. So I just misunderstood that, because it was also like other scientists were also killing themselves, but she killed herself because of her mom and not because of the other ones.
Yeah,
which is interesting.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like finding out your mom is a mass murderer. Like, that would destabilize you a little bit.
And that aliens are coming, and that science is broken, and like,
I would honestly also probably dip out. I'd be like, that's too much. Like, I don't know. I don't have the capacity to deal with this situation. Y'all figure it out. See ya.
Yikes. Just leave me and Emma to take care of the problem. Thanks a lot.
If an alien came to me to solve the world's problem, I'd be like, you picked the wrong person. The wrongest person. I'd be like, get rid of like capitalism and like bigotry and all these things. Yeah. And then they'd be like, and then how do we run the world? I'd be like, I don't know. I write news releases for a living. Don't ask me. Go to someone smarter. Yeah.
Let's talk about aliens for a second, because that's a very common, obviously, thing. Like almost all sci-fi, I guess I don't know the X percentage, but a lot of sci-fi deals with aliens. So how do you world build aliens? Why like if you were world building an alien, or if you were talking to somebody who wanted to world build like an alien race, what do you do? How do you start? What does
I think a lot of it is horror. And
Hmm.
that's for me, that's like I watch so much horror, read so much horror, like all these things. I'm very desensitized. Aliens get me. E.T. traumatized me as a kid. You know the scene when he like goes into the cornfield and he shines the flashlight and he's like, ah, and then E.T. stands up and is like, ah, with his neck all long and weird. Scared me so bad I couldn't go into my basement for like 4 years because I knew the E.T. VHS was in there. So like, hate aliens, love them, hate them. But I see them a lot in horror, and I find this interesting because it is horror, but it isn't horror. A lot of times when you see alien invasions and world building and stuff like that, it's just pure horror. Things like Signs, the movie, or even 8 Cloverfield Lane is another one. Like there's like a bunch where aliens could even be the backdrop. You don't even see the aliens, you don't know about the aliens. It's just that's the backdrop of the story, but they're always bad.
Mm.
Everyone always doesn't want them. War of the Worlds, things like that. So I found this really interesting that it's the combination of the two, right? Half the population, or the majority of the population, I would say, hates the aliens. They don't want the aliens. That's scary. Get it out of here. I don't like that. And then there's this one little group who's like, no, I love it.
Give
Bring
us
it, kind of
aliens.
thing. And that creates like more interesting tension too, I think. So I think if you're world building, like it's easy to stick them in the horror category. It
Mm.
works, it's effective,
What's
but
scarier than the unknown, and what is more unknown than an alien?
than aliens, right?
Yeah.
So like it's really easy in a sense.
Hmm.
But what can you do to counteract that? In this one, the aliens are still scary. They're still the antagonist to some extent. But you have this group of people saying, no, this is a good thing.
Mm.
And that creates a lot of tension and interest in the world from my
I mean, this
perspective.
show is
Mhm.
basically horror.
Yeah, it's like it's an
I would say
existential horror.
loosely,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's cosmic horror
Yes,
almost to some
yeah.
extent, yeah.
What's interesting in this is that the aliens are more part of the world than they are characters. Like the story is
Yeah.
not about aliens,
Yes.
it's about humans
Yes.
and our reaction
And
to
yeah,
this
exactly.
thing.
Yeah.
So they're not like, yeah, there's might be one or two like named alien. I don't even know if there are named aliens. Like we have one or two that they like interact with, like one of them is talking to the leader of the cult directly, so you see a little bit of that. But like
Yeah.
for the most part, they're just this like concept, and then the actual story is like, what are humans
Yeah.
doing about it? Which is a very interesting like take on aliens, because a lot of the time you see them as like individuals,
It is
or they're like
ultimately kind of
characters.
a man versus man story versus a man versus
Yeah.
alien or whatever.
Yeah, so that ties into what I want to say. So what I really love
Perfect.
about aliens is when they are super different from humans, and I find
Yes.
as a result of like 80s TV shows where they didn't really have the technology,
They were all humans
we
in masks.
they're all like
Yeah.
humans, humanoid type, just with fur or whatever, and that kind of has translated into novel writing as well. And I think it's really hard as a writer to wrap your mind around something that's so different, and trying to figure out like, well, what are my preconceptions about what humanity is that
Yeah.
might be different in an alien society. And if you want to hear us talk more about this, go listen to our episode on Andy Weir's Project Hail
I was
Mary.
gonna
Yeah,
say
Rocky.
yeah.
It was a
Because
great-
he
yeah.
does aliens so good. And
He
just
does, yeah.
even thinking about like this, sometimes you don't even think about the society you've grown up in and how it's just so normal to you, and so you put that into your aliens and it's like, well, that's actually your culture that they might
Yeah.
not have. And so the Three Body Problem does that a little bit, with that the Santee seem to be like a collective as opposed to individuals.
Yeah, they have like group think, it seems like.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's very different
Mhm.
from how humans think. So I
And
really
they can't
liked that.
lie, which is
And
very
they
different
can't
from
lie,
humans.
or they can, or they just don't.
Well, because
I'm
they're
not
all like
sure.
a group, like they're a group mind, right? So you can't
Well, yeah,
lie,
so I
because it's
guess
just
you
like your
can't.
thoughts are
It's
just
Yeah.
shares. They have no
actually an
concept.
entire spaceship of Amelia Bedelia's. There's just like 4,000
Yeah.
of them.
So I find it's really fun if you're trying to create an
Yeah.
alien race to think about what your preconceptions are about.
Yeah.
So human physics, first of all, like your aliens might not have hearts and
Arms.
lungs and
Yeah.
are or anything. And yeah, actually, I just finished the Skyward series by Brandon Sanderson, and he has an alien race that is just like vapor. Like
Yeah.
you can't even like see them, and so they make really good spies. Like just like, you know, your imagination is the limit, but sometimes it's hard to get over your to think unhuman thoughts.
Yeah.
Hey World Builders, Emma here. Did you know that the World Builders Tavern has a Patreon? Support us at any tier level, and you can help us keep the lights on and listen to bonus content like our After Hours episodes, where we keep talking after the official podcast is over. Join us at patreon.com/worldbuilderstavern. This is a great place for proprietor's pick. So, Allie, what do you have for us that is similar to the three-body problem?
All right, I have a story. Well, I don't have, but I found.
You've brought to us.
I brought to you by me. It's called Exordia by Seth Dickinson. Came out January of this year.
Ooh.
It's a first contact story where Anna, a survivor of genocide and former refugee, meets an alien that only she can see. And this is a book review by someone named Finchy on Goodreads, which I liked better than the back cover copy, so I'm going to read that to you.
High
Thank
praise.
you, Finchy. Reading Exordia felt like trying to solve a jigsaw puzzle while being chased by wolves. If the puzzle pieces were defense industry contractors and the wolves were also defense industry contractors who were laughing at you, this is not a fun, easy read. It's a book about hard truths and hard lies and the way everyone needs to believe that they are the hero of their own story. It's violent and unsettling, but sometimes beautiful and often darkly funny.
Ooh.
So looking at the reviews, you either love or hate this book, which I feel might be similar to how people might feel about the three-body problem. There's lots of techno-babble, weirdness, philosophy, politics, heavy topics like genocide and military-industrial complex. So if that all sounds awesome to you, check out Exordia by Seth Dickinson.
That sounds right up my alley.
Oh, maybe you should read it and let us know what you think.
I should. That sounds really good. I like that.
That sounds really good.
I like it. Sometimes I like a little bit of a hard read, you know?
It does not sound like my type of book, I'm gonna be honest. Like, I can see the draw, but like the techno talk and like heavy philosophy type, I don't know.
The techno talk I'm less pumped about, but the philosophy and like the
kind of so that's some people's jam.
Things,
yeah,
I love that. Yeah,
yeah. So I'm excited for you. You should read it.
I will when I have free time at some point.
Yeah.
And with that, we are at last call. So here are some concluding questions and thoughts based on the first half of the three-body problem that you can apply to your own world building. Christiana, what do you take away from the first half of the show that you think can be helpful for world building?
Yes, as mentioned earlier, this show is almost horror, but it's not. It's sci-fi. And I think horror and fear is a good way to build tension if done correctly, even if it's not a world that is explicitly built to be horror. This isn't a horror show. But there are these moments of fear and really intense moments like the response from the Santi where it's like, don't respond again, we'll invade. Horrifying. That builds so much tension. And then the character's response to that, of course, sets everything in motion. So you can have these moments of scary without it being a scary story. And that's something that you could use really thoughtfully to build that tension and push the story forward.
Yeah, totally. Allie, what do you take away from this story in terms of world building?
When making aliens, think unhuman thoughts.
Yes, that's so good.
Could we put that on a t-shirt?
Yeah.
Think unhuman thoughts.
Yeah. It can be overwhelming to try and do it all at once. So I would suggest take one area, for example, physical form. What do you think of when you know that we have hearts and skin and eyes and nose, and what might an alien, how might it be different? Because it's so hard to think about what's different when you're so in, where we know nothing else because we don't know any actual aliens. And then I think that can actually be a real tension builder when you also have humans in your story, because it's so hard for the humans in the story to understand So like the scenes between the leader of the cult trying to talk to this alien, and you can just see the disconnect between them, that they do not understand each other, and they're sort of trying, but in the end the aliens are like, nope, you lie, that's bad, we can't coexist with you, you're done. And that was just like, what? So creating tension through that, I really liked that.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thing of like, because you can't also be completely different, because then you just can't, like, then there'd be no way to interact.
Yeah,
like, and that would just be boring.
Some similarities. Yeah.
So you need some points of intersection and some points of divergence, and I think also like if those are somehow mirrors of each other, that can also like bring really interesting tension. So yeah, totally something to think about when you make aliens, or even like that could also apply to fantasy, like even if you're creating like, you know, fantasy races or monsters or something, like totally also applies, which is very cool. So my world building thought, and follow me here because it also applies to, and I'm laughing because it's kind of ridiculous, but I've been watching the latest season of Bridgerton, and I swear that this intersects.
I already see it. I know your question, and I already see it. Yeah,
we're never going to talk about Bridgerton on the show because it's not like genre, like it's not fantasy or sci-fi. But in a way, it kind of is, because it's not historical Earth. Like the costumes, the diversity, like none of this is actual Regency England, and yet the show takes place in kind of like an alternate Regency England. So it's it's still kind of world building, even though it's set in the quote unquote real world. And this kind of does the same thing, in which like it is Earth, but it's Earth with like a little bit of differences. So it's like could be Earth, but it's like a slightly alternate version. And I just find that kind of world building can be so interesting, because I think it's also a really good way if you want to do storytelling that like tackles a particular like theme or subject matter, because then you can just take one part of the world and change it to highlight whatever you're trying to talk about. So if you're doing world building and you want a world that's like Earth, you don't have to make it completely different. You can just change one or two things. Like this is our Earth, except for there's also aliens. And that's really just one change.
How the dominoes fall. One change.
In this story, I think it's actually that in the 60s, they started rejecting science in China, at least. I don't know about the rest of the world in this story, but they start like executing scientists in the 60s is how it starts. So what if we rejected science?
Yeah.
At least one part of the world rejected science.
Yeah.
Cue the dominoes.
Yeah, so like it can be really interesting to, and that's also like, so that there's like, you know, a whole genre of like alternate history which deals with this kind of things of like, oh, you know, what if the church Henry VIII had never split the church, or you know, what if this war hadn't happened, or what if somebody else had won this war, like, and thinking of that in butterfly effects is really interesting for world building. And you can also do that with like, I feel like sci-fi in particular, because there are so many like rules that govern our universe, where if you just like flipped one, oh my goodness, how different would everything be? Yeah, like, so if you're, and I think that can also be a great way to like get out of a writing rut. Like if you're stuck and you're not inspired, just like take an hour and do some daydreaming and just be like, what would be different about the world if, and then just
One
like
Direction
see where that
never broke up.
You know, I think there's a million fanfics that already cover that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, like, you know, what if gravity reversed, or what if we had a third arm, or like, there's a million different like what ifs that are always really fun to explore. So think about that when you're building your next world. And with that, we are unfortunately at closing time. We would love to stay longer, but these candles just aren't going to blow themselves out. And luckily, we actually do get to talk longer, because next episode is also going to be on the 3-body problem. So make sure you tune in for that. Thank you so much for joining us at the tavern today. If you just can't bear the thought of waiting 2 whole weeks for another episode, you can join us over on Patreon, patreon.com/worldbuilderstavern, for access to our bonus after hours shows, where we will also still be talking. So much of us talking, it's fantastic. You can also connect with us on Twitter at WBTavernPod, on TikTok at World Builders Tavern, and on Discord, the World Builders Tavern. We hope to serve you here again soon, but until next time, scram!
Get out of here.